I'm Kareem Rae, your host at the One Soccer Nation podcast. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Sam Morton and Matt Valentine. Sam and Matt, thank you so much for taking the time today. Starting with Matt, can you please introduce yourself to our audience? And then we'll kick it off, and then we'll go to Sam.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Matt Valentine. I'm the chairman and founder of Atlético Dallas, the newest expansion franchise in the USL.
And I am Sam Morton, Matt's best friend and co-founder of Atlético Dallas, serving as the chief commercial officer for the business. I say that jokingly, but Matt and I have known each other since we were 12 years old. So it's a unique situation, I think, for the front office.
Yeah, no
Amazing.
doubt.
So this is the first time, Matt. I told Sam this is the first time I'm having both owners of the club on the podcast. So I'm usually doing one-on-ones, but this is a 2v1. So super excited for this style. So it's exciting to have both of you guys on. My first question is, what inspired each of you to take on the challenge of launching a USL Championship club in North Texas?
Well, so the story goes back a little ways. In the late 2023, really August of 2023, I was presented the opportunity to buy the Las Vegas Lights and another USL Championship team. I didn't know much about the USL. I played in it in 1996, but just lost track, quit following it. Loved the sport, played in college, would have always wanted to be part of it, but didn't think it was possible. So got into business, had some success there. With the attempted purchase of Las Vegas Lights, I wanted to move them to Dallas. So the league told me no. They said Las Vegas is an important market. If you'd like to do an expansion team in Dallas, we'll support it. So in August of 23, I called Sam and said, hey, well, first of all, Sam and I have talked probably every week of our lives since we were 12 years old. We play golf together all the time. Anyway, so I called Sam. I said, hey, I want to start a pro soccer team in Dallas. I need you to quit your job and join me. And he thought I was crazy at the moment. So I just kind of forged ahead by myself for 3 or 4 months. I was still talking to Sam, but I was kind of dead set to do this. And I think in January, February, Sam agreed, hey, I'll come on board in a few months. And so he came on board as co-founder. We partnered with some other local investors, some other business executives, and formed like a larger ownership group. And, it's a dream come true to do this. It's we didn't know entirely what we were biting off. It's tons of work. But I know when we have our first game, standing on that sideline with Sam before kickoff, we'll probably be at the stadium at like 9 in the morning. It'll be emotional. It'll be, it's almost like having a kid. I mean, you totally birthed this thing from scratch. So it's pretty unique experience.
Yeah. And we've been able to share some of those moments so far. I think a couple weeks ago when we launched our brand, we had over 5,000 people at the brand launch in downtown Garland. And when Matt and I were on stage, just looking out to the crowd, it was a little emotional. Like, it's like, wow, and people were into it. And, so it's been exciting. But we're ready for the challenge. And, now it's just staying patient and keeping our head down until we get to the field in March of 27.
Amazing. 2027. Wow. So we're 2 years away. I mean, about a year and a half away. Next year, this year we got the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Next year's the 2026 World Cup, and then 2027 you guys are launching. So that's amazing. 5,000 people at the brand release. Sam, you touched on it a bit, but already seeing like just 5,000 people show up just to see the brand. What does that mean to you guys, and what does that say for the projection of the success?
Yeah, it's incredible. You have to fully understand the Dallas soccer market, I think, to appreciate it. Dallas is a huge city. There's 8 million people in the Metroplex. Dallas in and of itself, it's a big city. It's very spread out. And the MLS team, FC Dallas, has been fantastic. They're pioneers in launching the sport. Lamar Hunt is the grandfather of U.S. soccer. So for all he's done, but they are 35 miles away from downtown. And there's a huge percent of the population that lives close to the city center that we're kind of leaning into. And they're excited and ready to have a team kind of more in their backyard, if you will. So we're, we can coexist, but we do know the market's there. I mean, that's the whole reason why we did this. I mean, I know the market is there to have a second team and have a second team that a lot of the city can support.
Understood.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing that. I mean, we're seeing a really positive response by and large from the community. And there's obviously the naysayers and skeptics that, who are these guys? What are they going to do? But I think hopefully people will see we're very authentic and genuine when we're trying to do. We're trying to build a community asset that's going to last for 100 years, much longer than we are. And we just kind of want to get everything set up right and birth it in the correct way with the right environment, the right ethics, and kind of the character traits we're trying to deliver.
And I think, for us, Kareem, too, it's, we do have a long ramp up, right? Like we went public with our franchise award in November of last year. Really didn't do a whole lot. We had a couple of events, but until, March 2nd when we did our brand launch. And since that brand launch, like I said, everything's kind of exploded. I mean, our social media has gone from 3,000. I think we have unduplicated followers across all the platform now of 14,000. And we're just here in we're a little over 2 weeks from that. So it has been really exciting to see the response and the interest from the market. But to echo Matt, I mean, it's a huge city. I mean, the Metroplex is 100 miles east to west, 100 miles north to south. We just need 10, 15,000 people a couple Saturdays a year from this giant
Not a
pool of
year,
people.
a month.
A month, yeah, a couple times a month, and we'll be successful. But to do that, we have to be, servant to the community, and we're trying our best to do that. Whether it's supporting, schools, or whether it's with free tickets for schools or teachers or whatever that looks like. And I think if we can focus on just doing those things, I really feel like there's opportunity for us to be wildly successful.
100%. I mean, just the population size is massive where you guys are. So Sam, me and you, we talked about this in regards to you guys being the first expansion into a market that there's already an existing MLS
Yep.
clubs. What have things that you guys would like to share? What are some of the challenges that have been in regards to the launch of this new club?
Yeah, look, I think Matt spoke on it a little bit. I mean, there are certainly some naysayers, and there's fans, and I think for me, it's not about us versus them. It's just not. I mean, they do their thing and we do our thing, and our thing's going to be 30 or 40 miles away. So we're not going to really focus a whole lot on that narrative necessarily. Again, I think that we're trying to reach a certain specific kind of swath in the Metroplex. And if you look at a map, you go down, you look at South Dallas, Fair Park, all the way up to Garland, or north of there to Wiley, and you kind of take that and draw you a rectangle. There's like 2 million people in that rectangle. And we just have to reach those folks. And if we can do that, again, they'll be successful. They're going through a massive stadium renovation. I'm sure it's going to be spectacular. It's a $180 million renovation, I believe. So yeah, they have their audience. We'll have ours. But I think that there's plenty of room for both. I don't look at this as us versus them. And if the keyboard warriors kind of want to go at it that way, then I'll let them do that. But Matt and I are really just going to keep our head down and really try to be part of the community, and be successful in our own backyard. And if we do our job and the environment's great, and our stuff looks cool, and people travel from further around to see us, that's fine. I'd love for that to happen. But we need to make it where people in our area know that on Saturday nights, what do? I go to Atlético Dallas game. The same way that, in Texas, high school football is religion for all practical purposes. And you got all these small towns everywhere. That town of 3,000 has 8,000 people go to a high school football game. So, like, how do we make our club that for this community? And that's really our goal. Like, where they come out and support the club. They have a good time. It's reasonably priced. Our stuff looks good. I think our stuff is incredible. We're super proud of the brand. We're super proud of the name. Um, and look, soccer doesn't have to be complicated. I've said it in other interviews, but Matt and I met on a soccer field, in Arlington, Texas. We played pickup soccer at Woodland West Park. Sometimes it was just the two of us. Sometimes it was five of us. Sometimes it was eight of us. You don't need a lot to play soccer. You need a ball, a couple kids. Heck, you need a ball and a wall for all, really. But that's what the game should be. And if we can get those people to embrace our culture and our brand, again, I think that we're set up for success.
The only thing I'd say though is I can't wait till we play them in a US Open Cup game.
Yeah.
That'll be, the first time we play each other, especially if we can get them at our stadium, it would be pretty special.
Yeah, be packed.
That's huge. Yeah, I gotta say, I love the logo. Very unique compared to all the logos across USL Championship or USL One, even MLS. And then the name stands out for itself. How involved was the community in regards to creating the logo and the name?
Well, so that's a great question. We've made the logo and the name for the community. It
Mhm.
was a big focus of ours. Dallas is 45+% Hispanic. The market we're targeting is 49% Hispanic. I play for 15 years in a primarily Hispanic men's league. I've been playing in forever. I feel like I kind of know what they want, from that demographic. It's not really a racial or demographic thing. It's really just people that enjoy the sport of soccer and they're passionate fans. That's who we are. And that's who I'm trying to speak to with our brand. I wanted a name that the minute you heard it, you knew it was a football club. And then that was first and foremost. And there is not another professional team in the United States with Atletico. There's Real, there's Sporting, there's Uniteds, there's no Atletico. So that was a unique focus. So that was a big part. And then the brand and the logo just speaks to kind of the origins of Dallas. And there's a whole backstory on our website people can read. And it's a really beautiful story. And we think our crest reveals that. We're a little bit of a gamble. We don't have our city or the name in the crest, which is unusual. And we've got a little pushback on that. But we believe that in 50 years, it's unique enough. Someone sees that, they're like, oh, that's the Atletico Dallas. And that's what we're aspiring to be. I mean, we're by no
Yeah,
means and
yeah,
never will be the Dallas Cowboys. But if you see a blue star, you know exactly what it is. You don't have, and that's how we believe in the football world that our crest, hopefully at least in the US football world, it'll be known.
yeah. Yeah, I think that the no name in the crest or even no city has certainly been a topic of conversation. But Matt hit it right on the head. It's like it's up to us to make it something. Like if you just roll it out and left it alone, then I could see your argument. But again, I've already been really active. Whether it's at youth games, we've got a whole slew of opportunities to get out in the community, whether it's supporting, street soccer pickup games. We're sponsoring a pickup cash tournament here in a week or two. So it's up to us to make that crest something. And, if we do our jobs right and market it right, and make it valuable, it'll become valuable. So again, I think again, if you see the Mercedes-Benz logo, it doesn't need to say Mercedes-Benz. People know what it is. And I know that people are going, oh my gosh, but that's so different. They've been around 200 years. Well, our vision is much longer than this year or next year or even
Yeah,
next
Sam
10
and I
years.
won't be here. I mean, we're trying to create a club, and we always say we're a club for all and we're a club forever. I mean, this is when you create a pro sports team, it's a community asset. It's not the owner's asset. It really
Yeah.
is not. It's owned by the community, it's owned by the fans, and we're going to do everything we can to keep that at the forefront of kind of the ethos of our club. So Sam's right. We're just trying to, if we do right by the community and we're authentic in our love for the sport and our passion for kind of the romance of the beautiful game, to me, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like sitting in a packed stadium that's been waving flags or jumping up and down and chanting or singing songs for 84 minutes and there's no goal, and then a goal is scored. I get goosebumps. And I don't care what the game is, who's playing, there's nothing like it, and it's not duplicated in any other sport. So that's what we're doing this for.
You know, I didn't want to spend too much time on the logo because I'm going to ask another question, right, about the logo. Like, so because it's so interesting, like to build a sports organization or a football club. There's a lot that goes into it, and we're just talking about branding. And there's like just another question, just pops up. Using the word Dallas, is there? You know, I know a little bit about from our sports lawyer. Um, it's sometimes it's not easy to use the city's name or the state name in for the club. You might get a little bit of a pushback, or using something from the state or the city from their logo and your logo, which you guys are not doing. But in regards to using the word Dallas, is there a hard pushback on that, or is it hard to get that approved by the city?
No,
There isn't. I mean, we filed all the necessary trademarks on our logo, our word marks, our name. That's been done a while ago. We've had no pushback whatsoever. I mean, you know, in the big picture, a lot of the men's pro sports teams, they're not in Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys are 30 miles away in Arlington. FC Dallas is 35 miles away in Frisco. The Texas Rangers are 30 miles away in Arlington. So, you know, we want to embrace kind of the city center of Dallas and Garland, which is where our training facility has been announced. It's in Dallas County. We're part of the, when they say it's a suburb, it's a separate city, but it's in Dallas. It's an inner city. It's 6 miles from downtown. It's very close. So we've had no pushback at this point.
That's good. Matt, I want to just touch back on the market, right? You were interested in Las Vegas, and then why did you guys land on Dallas?
Well, so Sam and I grew up in Arlington, which is like half an hour away from Dallas. Playing club soccer, you generally play in Dallas. I played on the Dallas team and just commuted back and forth for practice. And we've both lived here. I mean, I've lived here since 1997. My kids grew up here. My family's here. There is a groundswell of people that love soccer in Dallas. It has an amazing youth market. I would argue the second best in the country outside Southern California. It's fantastic youth market, over 200,000 registered players. And there's I believe, a desire for another team in the market, specifically one that's closer to downtown. So I believe there's that push, and that was the gamble that we took when we signed the franchise agreement, and the gamble we're still taking because we don't know. We haven't had a game yet, but we believe their market is there, and it's big enough to support more than one professional team. I mean, how many teams are in London? And so I just believe we know the market. We have deep financial connections here. We have, you know, some deep political connections here now we've built up, but we think a team here can thrive.
What about a league selection? You know, there's options, right? MLS Next Pro, MLS, there's NISA. Um, what
Yeah,
can
USL is the open infrastructure, you know, where it's not a single entity league is very unique or very interesting to us. It's a very entrepreneurial league. The leadership with Paul McDonough, Justin Papadakis, Jeremy Onbaugh, I mean, they're all bold. They have big vision. You know, we thought there'd be a Division One eventually, and we thought there'd be promotion relegation, but we thought it's like 5-6 years down the line for our business plan. I mean, the fact that it's going to come out the first year, basically, we're in the league is exciting. So it made it, to me, it was the easiest decision, honestly, other than Dallas. Dallas was a really easy decision, picking Dallas as the city, but USL to me is the right market for what Sam and I are wanting to do. And Sam can talk about, I mean, it's grassroots, it's community based, and that's what we like.
Yeah, and I think USL again, it allows us, the club, the freedom to do bold things, and to make a Crest without a name, and to do things that people might question or scratch their head on. Matt and I were talking before the thing, we were about a potential account for our club, and they want to do something kind of wacky. And I come from a sponsorship sales role. I've been 20 years in radio at iHeart and CBS Radio, and dealing with clients and activations. And I made the comment to Matt. I was like, well, why can't we put their name on the side of the field? He's like, well, no one does that in soccer fields. And I go, well, why not? Why don't they? They never did before on football fields either. But now you go to a football field and there's Citibank on the corner or something in the end zone. Or I'm not saying we're doing it. My point being, if we wanted to do that, we could do that. And I think that's what makes this exciting.
Amazing. I'm gonna plant some seeds here. Sam, if you ever need a media guy, I'm here. And I'm gonna plant a seed for Chris Keeney for Capelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know Chris.
Yeah, we've met with them, and that's another thing. I mean, we've got, a lot of bandwidth and a lot of rope and who we want for our uniform provider.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just we have so much flexibility in the league, which is really nice. Each team is operated a little differently, and candidly, most of the owners, they're generally type A personalities that were entrepreneurs of some sort, and so you get to carry that through with your new sports team.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys, why did you guys choose to enter into USL Championship versus USL One?
I don't know that we've chosen either quite yet. There's been no announcement either way. I know that everything says USL Championship because right now that's really all that exists. They haven't named the 14 or 16 or 18 teams that are going to be Division One. But I would expect us to come out and surprise everybody yet again. Maybe take that for what you want to read into it.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a cool announcement that I'll be looking out for. Matt touched on this in regards to this being a community asset. Are you guys just looking at building a soccer specific stadium and that's it? Or is it going to be a mixed use development project that you guys are working on?
So we there was an article that came out in the paper yesterday. We have a proposed training facility in Garland. That's factual. Proposed. We'll have a team headquarters and 8 other fields, a really small, like 2,500 seat stadium for kind of youth activation, maybe high school soccer games and other things. There will be a mixed use development there as well, commercial development, hotel, commercial real estate, restaurants, retail, multifamily. Eventually I'd love to have a soccer specific stadium for us only with development. We were actually just in St. Louis last week, touring St. Louis City's development where it's all at one location. It's incredible. I think there's been 800 million worth of private development in and around the stadium. It's an amazing venue. So, something like that, that'd be a dream. That's not on the table today, But it's something we aspire to. And yeah, I'd like to have a soccer specific stadium. I mean, I'm a soccer purist. So when Sam's like, put something on the field, I'm like, no, I absolutely no. I'm a soccer purist. So I want a stadium that is steep, close to the field, with some sort of covering over the seats. It feels like a European stadium. I want it to feel like Craven Cottage, Fulham Stadium, or something iconic where it's loud and you feel like you're right on the field.
Yeah, but
That's my dream.
yeah, and I think that's a reality for us down the road. We will not open up play in a stadium like that, probably. We are working on some details for where that will be. Um, um, but I think wherever we'll be, I think the environment will be great. Matt has a big vision on what it looks like in the stadium, what it feels like from tifos and flags, and we want to make it cool. I always say look, we're gonna get the soccer fan, like the guy or girl or family that loves soccer, that's gonna embrace us, and they're gonna live and die with every goal, and we win, and where we're at in the table, and that's we're gonna get those fans. But for us to really take it to that, kind of next level, like we also need fans that are like leave the stadium. I know this sounds backwards, but people leave the stadium and go, "That was amazing. I'd never been to a soccer game before. Can we come back next week? What was the score? I don't even know what the score was. It was just an incredible environment. Like I had so much fun." And then we make them our fan. And that's the magic of it. Is like I think that we'll attract that core kind of group of fans, supporter group, and there's already been a supporter group that's blossomed. They've got a name and a logo and a website and an Instagram account. And shout out to the Blue Lunatics. Um, um,
Lunaticos Azules.
um, I don't have a good as Spanish accent as Matt, so I'm just gonna go with Blue Lunatics. Um, but that's Cream. I think if we can do that, like that's the magic part of it, right? That takes you from an A club to an A plus club. When you've got all these people who maybe that's their first time ever been to a game, and they leave with like Matt said, with chills and like, man, that was so awesome. I have no idea what the score was. I couldn't name one player, but the beer was cold. It was reasonably priced. It was exciting. Like that's going to take us from good to great.
Yeah, we want to be able to have an environment that, to me, a 8-year-old boy or girl comes to the game and they're watching the supporters section. They're like, man, I don't know if that's dangerous or not, but I want to be part of it. That's what I want. And then all of a sudden they become hooked on the sport, right? I mean, our real vision is just growing the game.
Yeah.
What can we do to grow the game? And part of the game for a lot of people, not everyone's talented enough to play professional. I mean, most aren't, much less they're not even talented enough to play college. But doesn't mean you can't love it and you can't feel the passion and have it grip you like it gripped me when I was a kid. In 1986, I went to Mexico. I was down there during the World Cup, and Maradona is my favorite player. That's when he won his first World Cup, and I mean, I get goosebumps today thinking about it. I I already love the sport, but I really fell in love with it seeing that. And so that's what we want to create in our own little world is, and I realize it's not the same, it's not as big, but on every Saturday, 20 Saturdays a year, we can create just a tiny bit of that. It would be really special.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's what I love about the USL model is that they're focused on, the community.
Yeah.
I think, Matt, you touched on London, how many teams they have. If you look at the map of the UK, and especially the promotion relegation ecosystem that they have set up there is huge. It's massive. I think it goes 8+ leagues down to promotion relegation. So I think and football has been around in the UK for 100+ years and has, really good government support versus the US where, the MLS has been around for 30 years. So I think, there's a lot of growth in the US for soccer. And, I've mentioned this already with all the big events coming up, 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, 2026 FIFA World Cup that's going to be hosted by Canada, US, Mexico, 2028 Olympics in LA, potentially a 2031 Women's World Cup in the US. So there's going to be a lot of eyeballs, a lot of tension, and a lot of capital going into football. With saying that, I've had Brett Johnson on with their $400 million project in Rhode Island, where they had their soccer specific stadium. I think it's around 11,000 plus seats. And then the city had assisted with building a bridge where they're building apartments, right? So you guys probably know more than me on that. But and then another big project was, I think the biggest one that I've had so far was Steve Livingstone in Florida, Jacksonville, where they're doing $1 billion mixed use development project. So are you guys able to announce a number publicly in regards to for your club, in regards to how big this is going to be? If not right now, then what is the future number, if you could put a number on it, in regards to a potential mixed use development, and what that could look like?
Yeah, we probably can't. I mean, the number publicly that's been stated is that there's a $70 million soccer complex being built. That's just our training complex. That has nothing to do with the stadium or any commercial real estate attached to it. Suffice it to say, the commercial development at that site's going to be a factor. I mean, at multiples of that. It's going to be much larger. And, the stadium we have designed and have looked at as a soccer specific stadium, it's much, much larger. But yeah, we can't. It's just a little premature because we've got a lot of balls in the air right now we're working on. So there's some super exciting announcements. I mean, we're really excited about, our potential stadium opportunities and what that could look like. I think it's going to be very well received in the market, and I think create a ton of buzz.
Yeah, the next 30 days for us, really going to be
60, maybe
60, 30, 60 days. But yeah, we got some pretty big announcements coming along with, as far as fields and facilities and stadium, investors that will have big name recognition, and contributors not only to us, in that investment stack, but be able to really help us grow the game. And Matt said that earlier. Part of it for us is we look at it as we're not just a team in a stadium. Like, we're going to have assets spread all across Dallas, Garland, Richardson, this whole swath of East Dallas. I mean, we acquired, or we partnered with a big youth club, about 3,000 players, 2,800 players already. They'll rebrand under Atlético Dallas, and the new jerseys. We'll do a kit reveal for them here in the next 30 days. We'll announce a big sponsor on the front of kit for them. That's a national sponsor that I think people will really go, man, that's a cool sponsor for us. And we'll have 2 seasons of club soccer, with our club within our colors with our name. So we'll again, it's just not come to the stadium. It's like, oh, I see them on Saturdays because I'm playing against them, or my daughter plays for them, or I see them at the park because they've created park space for pickup games, or I see them here, I see them there. It's like, a friend of ours, friend of the club's got a saying that he says all the time. I'll keep it anonymous for now, but he says, from the streets to the stadium. And that's what we want to embrace. Like, it's not just we're a club in this facility practicing, then goes to the stadium. Like, no, like we have assets and
Yeah,
opportunities
we're part of the
for,
community. We're part of
yeah,
this
whether it's a
soccer community.
whether it's an 18 field stadium, whether it's a street court somewhere or a futsal court somewhere, like that's our, whether it's a bar that we're gonna partner with for march to the match, or whatever. Like, look for us to have multiple touch points in the community, well beyond just the team and the stadium.
Yeah. Um, you know, what came to mind, I had a question like the club that came to my mind was New Mexico United. Like their fans from outsider perspective are like die.
Great guys.
They're awesome. Yeah, you couldn't be more on spot on. I mean, we're very close with Ron and Peter who run the club. They've been really good guidance and mentors to us.
Extraordinarily helpful.
At Sam and I's first ever owners meeting in the fall, we had dinner with them the night before the owners meeting, and they just gave us tremendous advice. And yeah, we look to them as that's their supporter section, and the ability they've connected with the community of Albuquerque and New Mexico in large really is something we would love to duplicate.
Yeah. From just speaking quickly on this, from an outsider perspective on it too, from like just the consistent things that I've heard was that like New Mexico is like the only thing there. I mean, yeah, New Mexico United is the only thing there, right? So there's no other competition per se, but no, they've done it. Yeah, Peter Trevisani and Ron Patel, they've done an amazing job. Yeah.
I mean, you are right. They have some competition with the University of New Mexico, and there's a minor league baseball team, but it's not the competition Dallas has. I mean, we have the Cowboys, the Mavericks, the Stars, SMU, FC Dallas.
Dos Equis. I mean, we're not competing against just soccer and sports teams either. Like
there's
music venues and
so we are, but we also are in the third or fourth largest city in the United States. And candidly, if you were to look at the demographics in 20 to 30 years, Dallas is as big or bigger than New York City. So if you just run, it's just pure math. Look at the growth of Dallas and the decline in some other cities. Dallas is going to be a massive second or third biggest city in the country here. And so there's a lot of competition, but there's also a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. A little bit off topic on my side. I've heard that Texas could even be its own country.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's some weird, in Texas, you have to take Texas history when you're in like 7th or 8th grade. And there is some weird clause, I believe, in our state constitution where we can form our own country. It might have been something when we became a state, we made a deal with the United States that we had the ability to become our own country at some point. That would never happen. That'd be crazy. Yeah. But trust me, Texans, there are Texans that probably think that.
Texas is unique. Matt and I both aren't actually from Texas. We migrated to Texas as kids. But there's people come here that it's unique. I think that, again, there's nothing in New Mexico for competition. What I would say to that is they're trying to reach soccer fans and people who want to watch soccer. We're trying to reach soccer fans and people who want to watch soccer. And, their brand is perfect for them in their market for where they're at. I feel like our brand is perfect for where we're at. And again, we've learned a lot from those guys. And Ron's been particularly helpful in really every aspect, from helping us get our, merchandise operation off the ground to what POS system, all these things that Matt and I have never done in our lives. They've been really an open book, and that's another thing that Matt and I talked about during all this. Like, look, there's a lot of this we can do, like visionary, but like actually doing it. I've never set up a Shopify site. I've never set up a POS system. I've never designed a T-shirt. Like there's some things that I haven't done before. But Matt's good about keeping us, kind of on the straight path. I'm like, that's fine. We'll figure it out. And he's more of we'll figure it out. I'm more of but how are we going to figure it out? And I think that's part of what makes us kind of, a good tandem. He's probably tired of me asking, I hear you, but how are we going to do this?
I just say, figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. I want to ask a unique question that I've never asked before. I want to start with you, Sam. What does a day in the life look like for you? And I know what does a day in the life look like for you? And I know probably every day is probably different, but
what does the end of life look like?
A day in the life. A day in life.
That's dark.
Well, right now he can't see, so
yeah. Man, it's right now it is all about just getting the foundation of our business built. Matt and I'm dealing more with the, I'd say, commercial marketing aspects of the club. So how we're going to market, what social looks like, are we growing social, what are we selling on the merch store, what marketing people are we partnering with, how are we going to,
Like
infiltrate
ticket
community,
strategy.
ticket strategy, merch strategy. So anything on the business side, I'm building out that team right now. We've got a really strong chief marketing officer in Andy Bromberg, who I've known for many years, worked with him in radio. Um, he has been a really instrumental part of our organization. We've got, a couple community activation PR people that have also been really great. We've got a sponsorship team already built out with Ryan Mackey, who comes from us from a Dallas Mavericks, Michael McAlone, who sold at Univision for a long time. So my day is kind of wherever the ball goes that day. I think that's what's great about this. Matt and I joke a lot. It's I worked in radio for 23 years, and I had some big jobs. I mean, I was a director of sales for CBS Radio in Houston. I had, I don't know, 70 people or so under me, 80, $90 million worth of revenue annually. I ran St. Louis for CBS, Dallas for iHeart. Um, and I've never worked harder than I work right now, I don't think, because you just don't turn it off. But that said, I also feel at the same time I've got a lot more freedom than I've ever had before too. So it's a weird dynamic. It's like I'm working my tail off, but I'm doing it under my own terms and
Because
for
I'm such a nice boss.
for the club. And again, it's just like we got to get to the finish line, get to March 27. We got to get to operating a club. But I'm doing all the stuff to build that business foundation now. Um, and so that's kind of what my day looks like. I wish I could say, hey, I wake up at 5 o'clock and I hit the gym, and Matt would laugh because he know that's not the work. But uh, um, I'm more like hit the Chick-fil-A line. But anyway,
Right.
that's my time, Kareem.
Yeah. How about yourself, Matt?
It's a little different. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. My last kind of boss, I was probably like 26 years old. And um, having Sam as my partner is totally different because in everything else I've done, I've been super involved in like all the minutia and the details. And this, I'm not at all, which I love. I'm involved where I want to be, but I have more than 100% confidence if Sam is handling and it's handled. I don't really think twice about it. He has complete trust and autonomy to do whatever he wants, setting up the business. So I'm an early riser. I generally get in pretty early. I like to work out in the morning and get my day started. But I'm dealing with kind of big picture visionary things. I'm dealing with all the real estate components, stadium, training facility, leases, soccer complex leases, and then I do have a finance background. That's my background. So I deal with all of our investor stack and talking to our partners. And so I really do that. And then I probably bother these guys because then I chime in on the business stuff. I come in and what's going on. And then I tinker with our financial model. I've made about 200 versions of it and I change it like once a week. But that being said, like Sam said, this is the most I've worked in a long, long time, at least 20, 25 years, but it's enjoyable. Because you're building, like I've built an energy business, an oil company that I sold. And that was fine, but no one who really has passion for the energy business. I mean, honestly, I didn't really care about it. This is totally different because there's something at the end that I absolutely love. And it just gives you energy to do it the next. I never once wake up like, oh God, I don't want to do this today. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the furthest thing from it. Every single day, have a big to-do list, but I'm excited and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Sam feels the exact same way.
Yeah, I'd echo that 100%. You know, I've been through the treasury of corporate media, and you know, there's been plenty of days in that job where like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do it today. You know, I could never let that show necessarily because everyone's looking at you in hard times and all that kind of good stuff. But um, yeah, never once since I left, you know, iHeart back in August last year that I wake up in the morning and go, man, I just can't see Matt today. I just can't do it. Now, I do it for different reasons, but you know,
Right.
for the most part, it's, you know, look, again, you know, we lean on this a lot, but Matt and I are friends, and the people in the office, you know, have to get used to it because they hear us bickering like, you know, like old married couple because we know each other so well. And we have to actually preface that sometimes when we go meet with a potential prospect or partner or whatever. I often say, hey, if you hear us like go back and forth, just know that our history is this, you know. You know, I used to be able to walk into Matt's house with not even knocking on the door, and his mom would make us dinner or what. I mean, that's the relationship that we've got. And but that is unique. And if you don't know that about us, you might think this is a weird relationship.
Yeah. Um, no, that no, again, this is really unique in Matt. When Sam had when we spoke offline and I'd asked I think I had asked Sam, I was like, you know, I think it would be pretty cool to have both of you guys on. I knew it would be a unique dynamic, especially that friendship that you guys have. So again, really thankful for both you guys being on at the same time and super cool and unique for us for the podcast. And it's something I think our viewers will really enjoy. Um, with saying that, I a bit off topic. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday. He's retired like 3 different times. The first time he built a robotics company and IPO'd it and sold it and then retired and then came back, took over the family business and then retired, sold that and retired it again. Long story short, with saying that, I wanted to ask you, Matt, with selling your company, did you, this is kind of like a personal question, but did you just straight, did you dive into this project right away? Or did you take,
No. So yeah, it's a good question. So I sold it in 2014, and we had some kind of legacy assets that we didn't sell. So I spent about 2 years kind of winding those down and sold those off. But I was only working like half the time, honestly. It's like 20 hours a week. And then in 2016, I really didn't do a bunch for a couple years. Built a big house, um, spent
Played
time
golf.
on what? Yeah, played golf. I got good in golf. All of a sudden, I was beating Sam. That's never happened in my life. And and then I was just dabbling and investing in things. And then when this came along, I was like, man, this is I wish I'd started this 6 years ago.
yeah,
So it just opened my eyes, and now I'm like working more than I ever have. I'm more energetic about it. It is and I'm an empty nester too. So there was a period in time both of my boys are really athletic, and I spend a lot of time doing youth sports. So I feel like I have a good sense. One plays soccer, so I know that soccer world pretty well. He's actually on Texoma FC, so a shout out to Texoma FC in the USL League One. Had their first win last week, so it's exciting. Um, but you know, this is I've got the time. It's just the right time in my life to do it. Honestly, just all the stars aligned. The stars aligned to have Sam available. 10 years ago, Sam, we probably never could have done this, or 8 years ago.
Been more difficult.
Yeah. So just all the stars have aligned. I feel, you know, not to get too romantic about it, I just feel like this is the right time in both of our lives to do this and create something that's gonna, you know, be a legacy, you know, outside of our kids and our families. You know, this by far outside of that will be my greatest legacy. There's just no question.
Yeah.
Sam, what about for you in regards to legacy?
Oh, it's a tough question, but you know, again, I think that it's, you know, Matt said it about right. You know, I think that our vision for this is not what happens next year or next year or next year. And so some of the decisions that we make are hard for people to see because Matt and I are thinking about how this is going to impact the club 10 years from now or 20 years from now. I think the logo is kind of the epitome of that, right? Like that's our statement. Yes, it might not make sense today, but give it some time, it will. Um, look, it's an incredible opportunity to be able to bring something new to the market and for it to be around the game of soccer. A sport that, again, Matt and I grew up playing together, played high school soccer together, kick 'em Colts. Um, it's I can't describe really how special that is. I don't know that I would have taken this jump if some guy would have just called me and said, "Hey, I want you to hire you for this role. I'm starting a soccer team." I'd have been like, "I'm good at iHeart." But because it was Matt, it makes sense. But yeah, it's an opportunity for me to bring something to the market. It's an opportunity for me to leave something behind, not only for the community, but for my family. And Matt knows this. I'm married for 27, let's see, I'm going to get this right, 28 years this year. My youngest is going off to college next year. Um, really close with my family, and it's about them too. This is a good opportunity for them. My wife's going to start coming in the office here in a couple weeks and helping us do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. My son's going to work promotion tents for us this summer when we're out and about. So I think it's something that they can look up and their kids can look up and their grandkids can look up and say, my grandfather, my great grandpa did this.
Yeah, yeah.
And that will be amazing.
Sam, I love that. I feel like a few tears are going to come out right now. This is an amazing legacy play, and I kind of want to set it off there. But there's so many questions I want to ask. I mean, I guess since we have 5 minutes and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, I kind of want to, selfishly, hear and learn a bit more about a bit of the process in regards to how you guys went about connecting with the city. I know, Matt, you'd mentioned you guys already had existing relationships and strong relationships there, but it's not always easy to, um, per se, for every market to get the city involved and want to bring professional soccer to their market. So, how has that process been? Where are you guys with that, and how long did that take, or if it's still?
Yeah, so there's a huge backstory on that. So the USL spends time looking at markets that should have teams and don't. They recognize Dallas. I had to be 2021, maybe slightly before that. They started talking with numerous communities in and around Dallas proper about bringing a team. The city of Garland latched onto that. So it was a bit of an arranged marriage. I mean, so when I came in here, they had already had discussions. They had already been talking about things. Now, it didn't go very smooth. I've never worked with the city and their tremendous bureaucracy that I'm not used to. I'm used to very entrepreneurial, quick decisions, flat organizations. Cities are the furthest thing from it. Um, so, the original plans that were laid out in Garland are couldn't be further than where we are today. But we got over the hump. They're an incredibly willing partner. They want to bring professional football to their community. They are progressive and aggressive, and we have a wonderful relationship from the head of Dr. Rick Lopez, head of their school district, to their city manager, Judd and Andy, and their economic development, their CFO. I mean, they've all been engaged. Yeah, their city council, their mayor, Scott LeMay, they're all fantastic. So it's been good. It's a long process. I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall sometimes, but I do know we're all pulling in the same direction. We all want this to happen. There's just processes that have to take place that we understand. So it's been great. We feel like we have the right partners, and there'll be new announcements coming out I can't really speak of that are just as exciting, and people working just as hard behind the scenes. So it's been a really good process, and I think everyone recognizes the economic development that can happen alongside a pro soccer team, especially in a city like Dallas, especially with a sport like soccer, that from a demographic standpoint lines up really, really well with where all the growth in the community is coming from.
And is it okay if I ask one more question? I know we have 2 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I wanted to ask about as well as the is there a lot of capital raising for this project? And if so, how how is that going? Because I know it's I kind of relate it back to that energy feeling of like being within the sport of soccer. And you guys are seeing you guys are working a lot, working hard, but you guys are energized by the work that you guys are doing because you guys love the game and want to continue growing it. So, you know, kind of like connecting that's how I look at it, but kind
Yeah.
of to the capital raise.
Yeah, I'll speak to that because that's kind of my bailiwick. I mean, that's what I've done for a long time. Yes, we are raising and have raised quite a bit of capital. We raised an initial friends and family round that I kind of led with like my college roommate Dan McAlone is one of the founding partners. You know, he's involved. He lives in St. Louis still, where I went to college. He has a couple St. Louis friends. Then there's some pretty large Dallas household names that are invested alongside us that, you know, our ownership group has a collective net worth of, you know, it starts with a B. It's a lot. And I'm the smallest of the group. I mean, candidly. So we have some large capital stacks behind us, supporting us. They see our vision. We are in the middle of we did our friends and family round A. It got us through the franchise expansion fees. It got us through operations for the first couple years. We're in the middle or just starting a second round raise right now that I'm planning to raise enough capital to get us through 2029. And at that point, I'm pretty certain we'll be in the green. You know, pro sports teams don't always make money, and we want to put a very competitive team on the field, and I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. So if we have a year or two once we start of some operating losses, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, all we've done is spent money since 2023, and we just got our first revenues in by selling some apparel. And we don't play till 27. So we have a big burn that all our investors are aware of these first few years. And I just want to put us in a position where we're not scrambling on capital raising. So yeah, we've raised it. I can't really share the amount, but it's we're not there yet, but we'll have enough capital. There's demand. Let me just say that there's demand in the marketplace to come alongside and be an owner. And we're starting the second raise to kind of get me through 29. At that point, it gives me almost 27, 3 seasons of operations. So yeah, it's been really good, and it's always scary. I mean, honestly, I was funding all of this by myself, and Sam agreed to do it. And, we had to say, well, shoot, now we need to raise some money and get some partners alongside us. So we had some scary days in the early going, more just the unknown. But there's been a really good response, and we're super happy with our co-owners. They're fantastic partners.
Okay, so Sam, coming from a media and sales background, how are you leveraging your experience in building strategic partnerships and innovative commercial models for the club?
Again, like I said, I spent 20 plus years in the radio business primarily, but calling on accounts in Dallas, calling on agencies in Dallas, agencies all across the country, Chicago, New York. I think what it's done is it's been easier for me to contact folks and have conversations about partnership because I've done business with so many people for the last 10 years or longer. It doesn't mean that it always goes the way we want it, right? It does give us a unique ability to have a good conversation with the marketing arm, which is a huge agency here in town, who I know, or the Richards Group, or one of the big HVAC companies, or any number of financial institutions who I've done business with, attorneys. So it's given us a good opportunity there. It's also given us an opportunity to use and partner with Ryan Mackey. Ryan Mackey was the VP of sales, corporate sales for the Mavericks, was in the Mavericks organization for 20 years. He and I met, 5, 6 years ago when we did a deal, when I brought the Mavericks to one of our stations at iHeart. And we became friends, stayed in touch. And when I was doing this, initially we leaned into him just for some generic questions like, I've sold a bunch of media and a bunch of sponsorships, and I've done, I've always had a sports property in my cluster, whether it was Cowboys, Rangers, the Cardinals, we had the Texans in Houston. So I always had those relationships in sports. But, I'd never really sold partnerships for a sports franchise before. So it's I always say it's industry adjacent, but, I had some questions and we circled Matt. We've been talking to Mackie for probably the last 6 or 7 months. And the opportunity came for him to do something else. And, now he's sitting right across from us. So to have someone with his leadership skills and also a tremendous amount of contacts in the space, I think really sets us up well. That plus, again, the road to 27, we got some time. We're not rushed. But we'll have to make some hard decisions. I think that, you know, um, the first deal is never going to be maybe the best deal. Do we hold out longer for a front of kit sponsor? Do we take the first person that wants to do it? I think that those are all things to be determined, but I'm confident in the contacts that we've got amongst myself, Ryan, even Matt, and some of our other investors are connected to other business owners. Um, Lots of interest. So I'm really confident in the corporate sponsorship partnership side of our business going forward.
In regards to employees, how are you guys going about hiring employees, and how many employees do you guys currently have?
Right now,
What do we have? Full-time employees?
employees full time, I think we're at like 4 or 5. One,
Six.
two,
I think six.
Andy, me, you, Jody,
Luther, Jody,
Luther, and Michael.
Brian.
Yeah, 6. We do have probably another 4 or 5, I'd say part-timers that kind of float in for a few hours, either do community outreach. We have someone that comes and helps us with the merchandise, make sure orders are getting out every night, every day. So still a pretty small organization. We're not hiring per se at the current moment. We're trying to stay tight and really work out the kinks amongst a smaller group of folks. But I think hiring will ramp up the back half of this year, and obviously as we get into next year, we got to build out the sporting side. We got to build out, all of
Yeah,
that.
late 26. I mean, we'll be at
Yeah,
35. We'll be at 35 people in 18 months. I think we're at 12 if you count all the part-time. So it'll ramp, and that doesn't count sporting. That's just front office will probably get to 30 plus by end of 26, and the sporting
and the
side.
partnership with our youth club, you look at that. They have a handful of employees. They've got a number of coaches. So our
A
organization.
number, they have 100 coaches.
They have 100 coaches. Our organization, for being 2 years, 20 months away, um, is pretty large at the current moment. And we're all just trying to figure out, again, what's working. We're doing a lot of testing on things. So Andy and I are, let's try this. Let's try this. This really didn't work. So I think that's how we're going to get better. And we came into this. I obviously have perceptions of things. Matt has perceptions. We all have that. But it's important to try a few things first. And again, we've learned some lessons. Like this didn't work real well. But this really has worked well.
Sam and I always say, look, we're just, as long as we're moving forward, we're going to make
directionally forward.
Yeah, directionally correct. We're going to make a ton of mistakes. That's just life. And as long as we're authentic and honest and trying to do the right thing and we're directionally correct, you can reverse course and change paths and make changes. That's how I've always operated things. I mean, I'd never been in the energy business and started a company in 2009 and sold it in 14. And I'd never done that. You just hire the right people that have done it and let them do their thing. And
But any
that's
growth chart, right? Any growth chart you look at, whether it's a stock, whether it's a bit, whatever, it's never just like this. I mean,
right. And
it's
the
this,
people,
but
the
as long
keys,
as
the
we're
people,
going from point A to point B, um, sorry, Walgreens is calling me. As long as we go from point A to point B, we'll take the peaks and valleys, right? We'll enjoy the peaks, we'll sweat through the valleys, but it'll be fine. I think it is about people, um, not titles. It's about who wants to do this, who wants to get us to the finish line, and, whether it's myself or Matt loading up a promotions truck or Andy, like right now, that's what it takes because that's who we are. But no one in our organization right now is beyond that. So, I think that's where we're learning right now. And at some point, do I want to be going out to every promotion and taking tents out of a van? No. But I think that it's important that we all do it and we all learn how to do it. So we can also be respectful for those that will do it later. There's a hierarchy, in radio business, and it starts at the manager and on down. And I've always been like, we all work here, and I don't want to be seen, treated, feared, or whatever. Like I'm in it with you, and you're in it with me, and let's get it done. That's always served me pretty well in my career as far as managing people. People have to want to work here, and it's our job, Matt and I's job, to make it where people go home and go, man, that was a great day. It was hard, but man, that was a good day.
and I'm doing for a worthy cause.
Absolutely. Just gonna water some seeds I've already planted. If you guys need a media guy, I'm here. Just
Yeah, yeah.
got my US green card, took 3 years, but finally
Nice.
permanent residence. With saying that, um, Sam, there's definitely a lot of media stuff that I want to learn from you, your experience. So probably would love to do a one-on-one, create some questions and do another podcast with you one-on-one.
Sure.
And then Matt, I wanted to ask you a question in regard to, finance, with the finance background, financial models is not really, emotional. It's the numbers. You look at the numbers. So, but my question is, especially with an investment like this, is there, I mean, especially again with your background, you've played soccer, you love the game, your kids play soccer. So is there a bit of an emotional investment into the financial model? Or is it strictly, you still strictly implement no emotion and just look at the numbers?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Now there is there's the I want to make it work, right? And I always say this. I say you can make any business work in Excel. I mean, you can manipulate and make anything look good until you get into it and you're operating it. So, it's been my history. I was a CFO of my energy business I started where, I'm probably overestimate my costs across the board. I mean, I'll show the business plan to Sam and my partners are like, you've got like 45 employees. We don't need that many. And I'm like, hey, that's great. Hopefully we don't. So I always am trying to do worst case. We too many employees, not enough fans. We're not moving merch. Sam can't sell sponsorships. How much are we losing? But that's the realistic side. But there's the part of me, the emotional side, where I'm like, hey, what does it look like if we do 14,000 fans a game? Which, in the USL, people like, you're crazy. You're never going to do that. But, I look out at our market and say, you know what? There's not a lot of USL teams in Dallas or in the market the size of Dallas with the demographics we have, with the soccer hotbed we have. So, you know, the emotional side is that I look at it and I see, man, if we get 14,000 fans, even at a $27 ticket or $25 ticket, we do well. And I think it's important to understand we're not in this to like take out all these profits. That is not what this is about. I just don't want to lose money. honestly. I just want to make sure we can eke out a profit. Any profit we make, we're going to turn back into the sporting side, and or maybe more importantly, we're going to turn back into the youth club and make it not pay for play. That's incredibly important for me. I think that's a huge problem in US soccer. A lot of kids get undiscovered because of it. And the US soccer is incredibly political. And if you're not on the right side of the political game when you're 13, 14, 15, which means you're in a pay for play and your parents have to be able to afford it, you don't get a shot. And you never get a shot. And there's thousands, tens of thousands of kids that probably could have played professional if they had the right environment. So it's really important to me. You know, I don't know what that math's going to look like if we are profitable and I can spend half to the sporting side and half to the youth side so we can make one extra team free. You know, we'll start at the top and work our way down. I mean, honestly, you know, I'm just thinking a lot of probably should start at the bottom and work our way up so you get younger kids not pay for play. But that's what this is about. So the emotional side is what can I do to get that? Because I know, you know, from like the deepest part of my heart, you know, this is about turning that any profits I can generate back into developing kids and growing the game. So yeah, that's the emotional side is, you know, where can we go? You know, that's why I push on Sam, I need more sponsor money because all that sponsorship money, you know, it's really going to our bigger cause.
Amazing. So to end off, do you guys want to just share any last words in regards to where you guys are now, or anything? Is there anything that you guys just want to end off with specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I'll end it with follow us at Athletico. Just kidding. You know, I'm an internal salesman. So if you're listening to this, follow us, buy a shirt, buy a jersey, watch our story. You know, I think that you'll be excited to follow the club's transformation over the next couple of years. You know, we don't know what it's going to be exactly. You know, we're like Matt and I've said multiple times, it's a zig and a zag, and it's an up and it's a down, and but man, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm thankful for you giving us the platform to tell our story, and yeah, I think that that's it. You know, give us a
Yeah,
follow.
I mean, the final things I'd say is, you know, we're building this for people that love the game. And if you love the game, come be a fan of ours. And we're not going to get it right. We know that. We might not always have the best team on the field, but I'll stand in front of the fans and we'll answer, hey, this is why I hired this guy. This is why this, you know, this didn't work. This coach didn't do as well as we thought. This player, you know, we didn't sell, we mispriced our tickets. Whatever it is, we'll be incredibly blunt and direct and honest and open. And if you love the game, you know, honestly, please come help us. We want to create the best game day environment in a soccer stadium in the United States. That is my number one goal. And if we do that right, everything else I think will take care of itself. So if you love the game and you live anywhere near Dallas or you have friends in Dallas, tell them to come support us and help make, because that's what makes the environment great. It's the fans. It's not Sam and I. We can say all the right things and do all the right things, but if people listening don't come out and provide us that support, then, you know, this might not be as great as it could be. So that's all I ask.
Yeah. Well, I think the market that you guys have is a massive market, very abundant, and looking forward to when you guys kick your first ball. And hopefully I'll be there in person with you guys. I'd love to watch it. But again, Sam, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time and spending the time with me, for being on the One Soccer Nation podcast.
Thanks,
Man, I
Kareem.
appreciate you.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Kareem.